Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to episode, I believe, 16?
16.
Am I correct, Brent?
I believe, yes.
Okay. Awesome. I'm Bryce, and that, because I don't remember where I put you, is Brent. And this is Twins on Tech. We're going to talk a little bit today about online storage and backing up, using that as a backup feature so that you can keep your stuff safe. Your digital life can be safe. Brent, you have a nice little list, and I think you said you even have some prices next to it. What do you have out there? What's out there? What's available?
Well, the list that I put together was just the big players. I think there were 4 in it. I actually, because I'm a genius, I left the iPad in the other room. And so since you love me looking so far to the side, I can pull the list up over here on the big screen that's giving me all this light over here. But basically there's the big ones at Dropbox, of course, that most everybody seems to know about, or at least has heard about. There's Box.net, which is, they don't get a lot of play as far as a lot of people talking about it, but I like them.
Yeah.
I like them and use them more than Dropbox myself.
Oh, do you? Well,
yeah. Dropbox.
Didn't they recently make kind of like a change, though, in who their focus is? They were trying to be a Dropbox competitor, and then they kind of slighted to veer off a little bit.
Yes, but they didn't. Well, they haven't deleted my files anyway. I'll put it that way.
Oh, that's all that matters. Okay.
Yeah. And of course, there's OneDrive with Microsoft. Of course, why? How could you not know about OneDrive?
It's loaded on everybody's computer, whether you like it or not.
Right. Everything Microsoft, and then iCloud storage, and Drive. I guess. I put Drive on here as well. So
yeah, Google. They're changing the name of it, but it's. I don't remember when they said they're going to do that, but
yeah, I feel like they said
it's
February.
Basically the same thing. New name.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and I don't have all I have right now for Drive is its current standings, price wise, and so forth. And I actually forgot to put Dropbox pricing. I was wondering why I still had that on my screen the other day. I was like, why do I still have this? Probably because I didn't put it on the actual list yet. But all of these prices are fairly similar, but there are differences. But I don't know that I'll get into the prices right away. And, you maybe have some thoughts on this.
And prices change.
Yeah.
So even if you say a price now, it may go up or down. You might find a deal where it says you get free Drive or free. I know Microsoft, as an example, does it with their OneDrive, although it's changed 19 names since they started it. But if you buy Office, or sometimes if you buy like a Surface Pro, a Surface Book, Surface RT, what's the new Surface laptop? I think just a Surface
Book, I think.
I can't remember. Well, the Surface Book has that funky hinge that you can detach to the screen, but then they also have
just a regular
an actual laptop.
Yeah.
That same has that, or has that same fabric that's on the keyboard of the Surface Pro or Surface RTs. But anyways, when you buy those products, you get 1 year free, or sometimes it's just an introductory price or something. So prices are always subject to change. Hit their websites if you're interested in anything to really see what the prices are right now, if that's something that you want to do.
Right. But they are, and you do want to check multiples, because there are some that offer better. And actually going through the list, if you're an Apple user, they're actually the most competitive pricing wise for one or multiple users. But anyway, the main reason I brought the topic up was, one, we need something to talk about. Two, you're mentioning last week of the Plex and so forth. I think it was on the last one, or the 14, whichever one. The idea of storage is really kind of always on my mind. I don't have a great backup solution. I really don't use these yet as great backups, but online backups, because there are things like Carbonite. What are some of the other ones? Anyway, I don't have those lists. Those are more literally backup services, whereas these are file storage. They can be used as backup, I guess, especially something like Drive and their photos. Is it still Picasa, or is it Google Photos now? Whatever the cost.
Picasa has gone away. It's Google Photos.
So they will store unlimited, but they'll kind of squish the size a little bit. The resolution, it won't be full resolution unless you pay, but they'll at least give you unlimited. You could go to Flickr. These are just for photos. And I believe they go unlimited as well nowadays. But even still, I think for a while they were 1 terabyte, which would cover the vast majority of us for your personal stuff. I actually stopped using them.
But the interesting...
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say I stopped using them once Verizon bought Yahoo and said Flickr. I'm not a huge truster of Verizon or AT&T or really any of the cell phone companies. I just did a little sniff.
Well, they're trying to use your data like Google does. I mean, if you trust Google, why not trust the other ones? They're all out for your data. That's what's the money maker nowadays.
Right. But at least
one thing I was going to mention
Google's
regarding
at it, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, they seem to be a little better when it comes to security protocols, things like that. Yeah. But, I mean, the whole idea is I'm putting my stuff out there because it's a free service. And as long as you're not doing anything shady, then it's probably okay. I don't tend to like to have my stuff everywhere. So I have I guess technically I have 2 because I do have, excuse me, I do have Apple's iCloud service. I pay $1 for 50 gigs or whatever it is, just for my phone and my tablet. But then I also buy Dropbox. And the main reason I use Dropbox, I used to have Box, I probably still have an account. I used to have Box when it was, I got a free 15 gigs. And then the more people that sign up with it and then tell them, that I was the one who referenced them, I got an extra 2 or 5 gigs each. So I was up to like 50 or 60 gigs for free.
So you shared it with a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, I did share it with multiple people, but I shared it with one person who ended up making, told his family. They ended up doing it and they gave my name as well. Oh, okay. So I only told him, but then his family helped spread it. But anyways,
pyramid scheme.
Online data storage pyramid scheme. Yeah. But, the main reason I use Dropbox is while I don't necessarily take a bajillion photos, I'm not a photographer by trade or anything, but I take 1,000 photos when I'm on vacation and I shoot RAW plus JPEG. And that's a whole nother podcast in and of itself. But a RAW file is a completely separate file than a JPEG. It's basically the uncompressed and unmessed with image that the sensor received from the camera. But Google Drive, I believe, does not upload RAW files unless you pay for the service.
Right.
Flickr, they flip-flop back and forth. I'm not exactly sure what they do now, but they used to not do that as well. But I want, they're bigger files. If a JPEG's 5 megs, the RAW file could be 20 or 25 megs.
Right.
So they're much bigger, but there's more important data. If I'm going to save anything, that's really the one I want to save. So Dropbox basically just says, I don't care what you are. I'm going to back up everything that's in these folders. But another nice feature is they've added it to the iPhone, iPad, I believe even on the Android side. It'll back up any new photos. For some reason, they do it when you change location. And I don't know if that's a battery thing. So if I'm here at work and I take some pictures, it doesn't automatically get uploaded. But as it notices GPS-wise that I've left a certain area, geofence, if you will, then it starts the upload process when I get to maybe a new Wi-Fi. Because I tell it for pictures to back up through the LTE service, but don't do that with movies. Wait until I'm on Wi-Fi because movies are so stinking big,
right.
Videos. So that's why I use Dropbox. It actually backs up RAW files. I have the 8 Plus now. It actually shoots RAW, although I haven't really shot RAW with this phone yet because I haven't found an app that really does it. Yeah,
you do mean the phone?
Phone camera.
Gotcha.
In this case, the phone. I shoot RAW with my camera, but the phone, and I point to it because that's what I'm looking at you on. Well, currently I'm looking at a green screen that says poor connection, but we can hear each other just fine.
Kentucky.
Kentucky. Yeah, it could be me. You never know because you said you can see me just fine. But if I can't back everything up that I want without having to tweak some things, then that's annoying to me. And I'm okay with paying. It's expensive. I think it's $100 a year-ish if you pay upfront and you get 1 terabyte. And that's all my data. So it's not just photos. It's all my data.
Who's that with?
But it's accessible everywhere.
That's
Dropbox.
Dropbox. And you said, I was actually listening, if you can believe that. However, I'd missed the price. What? 1 terabyte for how much per year?
About $100. So I think you could do $12 a month or it's $10 a month if you want to pay monthly, which would equal, if it's $10 a month, math, would equal $120. But if you pay all up front, at one time, it's $99. So you save, $20 or whatever the actual price is.
Right.
And it's worth it to me, like I said, because that is how I back everything up. And if my wife or anybody else needs a file, I think I might have even sent you some files. Mm-hmm. I can just send them a Dropbox link, and they don't need an account or anything. They just download it, and they're ready to go. So there's convenience there as well. It works on Macs. It works on Windows machines, iOS devices, Android devices. I think Chromebooks, there's not really a client, but you can always log in to the web interface and then transfer files that way as well. So it's really convenient. So that's why I use that. I still have probably a Flickr account from thousands of years ago.
Right.
That's like just sitting there dormant. I got a Google Drive account because I have Gmail. It just comes with it, right? I actually have one here at work because with work we use Google products. Mm. The nice thing about work, although I keep it work related, it's unlimited. So I don't have to worry about it. Currently I'm using probably 50 gigs because I do audio and video stuff here sometimes, and that's my backup. We have a backup here locally. Then I also throw a copy up on Google Drive and waste all their storage with my silliness.
Well, you probably have plenty of bandwidth to get it there. See, that's my biggest issue is the bandwidth. And that's, if we're in this location, we as in me and my family, and this little recording continues and continues and continues, it will be a constant complaint of mine is the connection. I'm using the LTE connection on my phone because I have it connected actually to an antenna that is in the window on a signal booster. I'm getting 3 bars. And with that, I had a fluctuation of 5 to 8 megabits down, which is it's usable. We supposedly have 5 megabits on our DSL here, but the upload was anywhere from half a meg to 1.5 megs up. So it's not awesome. But so for backups, that's hard because it's going to take an eternity. I tried to send you the last video, number 15, at my side of 800 and some megabytes or whatever. And on the internet here just wouldn't take it. I took it into the local town, we'll call it that, where I have a better connection, and it didn't have any issues there.
What did you call it before?
I don't recall.
You got fancy with the lingo.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Okay.
Anyway, so I don't use Dropbox a lot, primarily because of the space. They give you a measly 2 gigabytes even now. Yeah,
the free is pretty sad.
Right, and that's what they did when they first rolled out. I think a long time ago. They may have had some specials here or there, but
yeah, they do have some specials every once in a while. But even if you have if you refer someone and they sign up, you only get like 500 megs. So some of these other services, when you refer a friend, you'll get a gig or 2 gigs or 5 gigs or 10 gigs. With these guys, 500 megs. Right. So clearly they're doing good in other areas. They're not really trying to fight to get people.
Well, I mean, you're a tech guy. Most of the tech people you hear talk about Dropbox. Even though of all of these, the only one that I can recall having security issues has been Dropbox. Not frequent and not consistent, but they've had the issues.
No, Microsoft had them. Flickr's had them because they're based there. They have the Yahoo backing.
What does Microsoft have?
Google Drive hasn't really.
I don't recall the others. I'll put it that way. No sense of making you list them. But the only one that I can recall from my vantage point and the ones that I use. But again, the main reason I don't use Dropbox, I mean, I use it. I have some things there, is the amount of space. There's been a few people that I've sent stuff out to share, and so I may be up to 4 whole gigs on Dropbox or something like that. But with Box, you can do the same thing. I don't remember what the amount was you get when you have a referral, but there was something that I got a number of years ago that jumped me up to, I want to say 50 gigabytes for free with Box.net, Box.com, just Box. And so because I had the most there, you all right? Because I had the most there.
Yeah, I was laughing.
Okay. That's why I used it the most. Because they both work the same. When you have the app installed on your computer or your device, they'll back up, and that's the goal for both. So from my vantage point, you can send a link, just like you mentioned everything with Dropbox. You can effectively do the same thing. Pricing is about similar. There's a free version for Box right now is 10 gigabytes. That's free.
Wow.
I have free per month because I'm awesome. It's free per month. You can go for the professional with 100 gigabytes for $10 a month. That's $100 a year. So that's not really competitive because at $10 a month...
$120 a year. Yeah.
Correct. I'm sorry.
12 months.
1 terabyte for Drive, for instance, is $10 a month. If you want to go crazy with it, you can get 10 terabytes for $100 a month. But then your better bets...
Yeah, if you have a business, that might be good. But
yeah, your better bets would be OneDrive or iCloud Drive in that aspect. These are current prices, early 2018 now. Because like you had mentioned, if you have Office 365, you get space. You get basically 1 terabyte per user. If you have the individual user, if you have the family pack, it's not called that. I think it's just called Home or something like that. You can have up to 5 users. Each of those 5 users get 1 terabyte. That's $100 a year, and you get all of the Office products. So that's a benefit.
Yeah, Microsoft, like it's Office 365.
Correct, but you get a download version as well, and that's what I like. I don't like the online version, but it's usable for most people. But you have the devices, tablets, and phone software as well. If you use it on there,
yeah.
So I'm not trying to sell it, but that is for $100 plus a terabyte. It's not a bad way to go. $50.
It's actually really good.
Right.
My problem with it is it's Microsoft.
Yeah.
And while I don't distrust Microsoft, and they haven't had a huge breach, they've had minor things. Microsoft has no problem. Microsoft is similar to Apple in regards to where they don't really have a problem if they want to make a shift in the market in doing it and then leaving their customers high and dry. So if you have, because they've done this with their Drive account previously, they promised certain groups of people based off of because of when they signed up or how they signed up or whatever it was, we're going to give you this much space. And then they came back a year or two later and said, we're no longer doing that. We're switching gears. We're going to market it more towards Office people and with those that use the Office products. So we're cutting your space in half or a quarter of it or something like that. So, you have a week or 2 weeks, whatever it was. It wasn't a long time to clear out your data. Again, Apple does the same thing. Theirs is more on features and things that are, apps that you might get really used to and start to love, and then boop, gone.
Yeah, they've yet to do that with any
not necessarily
storage,
services,
right? But you never know what the
other services have gotten better.
You don't know that about Drive and Box or any of the other services out there because they could fall short, and they will. None of these companies will be around in 100 years. Well, none of these as far as Drive and Box, I would imagine.
That we know of. Yeah, and even if they do, you'll probably find something better. Right. I mean, I don't have a problem moving from Dropbox to Drive, or if Apple, if their iCloud service actually got good enough to where it can be used, like Dropbox, and was reliable enough. It's reliable for the most part on an iOS device or on a Mac, but on a PC side, boy, it's cumbersome.
Yeah.
And
are you talking about the
uploads are slow?
The iCloud, whatever it is,
iCloud
load,
Drive. Yeah.
Software you load. I've never tried it on Windows, but I've never had any issues with it. But as you say, on iOS or the Mac. So I've never loaded it.
Yeah, it works definitely better there.
Yeah, I haven't tried it on Windows.
I'm not in love with it.
Yeah.
I'm not in love. And I don't like the way that they kind of lock you in. If you want to use some very specific features of photos, the ones they use in the keynotes as an example, well, then you have to enable the iCloud photo backup. I don't like to do that because they really don't back up everything.
Right.
They really complain if you try to back up a video that's too long or too large. They sometimes will back up multiple files, but not certain files. Now they finally back up raw files, so that's good. But if you delete, if I were to back up a picture off of my phone to Dropbox, then I delete that picture locally, well, it's still on Dropbox. But the way stinking Apple works is if I delete that photo locally, it says, oh, you don't want that file anymore? It's gone across the board. So that's a horrible backup system. I mean, ask my wife. All the stupid pictures I take here at work of nuts and bolts and circuitry and lighting and all this other stuff that I take it for its work related or because I want to remember something, but I don't necessarily want to keep it. So that's an example of something that, okay, if I delete it here, I don't know, half the time I'm okay with it actually deleting everywhere. Sometimes I even want it to. But then there's other times where I'm like, no, I'm actually wanting to remember that for later, but I don't want it taking up my phone storage. I didn't buy the 19 terabyte phone that they have available. I bought the measly 64 gig phone. So I get a little cranky, as you can probably tell.
It doesn't come across.
When it comes to a few things like that. No, I hit it well?
Yeah,
all right, good.
Perfect. I will say, though, I think that is, I don't want to call it necessarily a setting to do that, but I don't believe that it actually, if you have a certain something, and that's the problem, is that it's not clear what it is, because I don't use it, so I don't know offhand the photo backup for iCloud. But there is a way to say, okay, this is my main device, so make sure that it stays here, but when I delete it, get rid of it from all the other places. There is, and I've heard that in one of the mini podcasts I've listened to, but I don't know the specifics of that.
You have to be using, I think that's on a machine, a computer, not on a mobile device, and you have to use their software. So it's either photos or whatever it is. Which even then, when my Mac was working, which we're going back a couple of years now, I still haven't fixed it. It's just sitting in the corner. It's too pretty to throw away. I didn't want to use their Photos app. It was super slow, and my machine wasn't slow. It did everything else fast, but the app was super slow. To make any changes, they were comparing it to a Lightroom and whatever Aperture, which is what they had at the time. And so I wanted to use Lightroom to organize everything and to make any changes and whatnot. And so it was cumbersome. So yeah, I could have used Photos app to keep everything local, but it was too much of a pain. And then Ruth, whenever she logged in, because with separate accounts, I didn't want her messing up my stuff. She wanted to see the photos. So then I dragged the photos to kind of like a shared community, which was nice. It was a nice feature that whenever I took a photo, it would upload and it would land kind of in that little central location. She took a photo, it would upload, land in that central. So now we both had access to all of our photos, whereas previously I had access to the mother load and she had access to like the 45,000 that she took. But now that was all together. But then you start to get that backup process again. And Apple says, no, we kind of need you to pull it into your profile. That way we can back it up properly. Well, then it messes up that whole sharing feature. And as much as I like Apple and their products for some things, some of their other decision-making processes just baffle me. So their backup storage thing, I use it for my phone and my tablet. But that's it. I don't like it for documents. I don't think it works very well. I know some people who use it and it works. It functions for what they want.
Right.
But
and I'm one of those.
Yeah, it's just not for me.
For me, I put together a fair amount of documents every month, and I do use Pages because I have the iPad Pro that has the keyboard. So my away computer is the iPad Pro, and so it's easy for me, especially since it has the cellular connection. I haven't had any of the issues. Again, I'm not doing the picture stuff because I agree 100% on all of that. And my biggest gripe with Photos, the new version of Photos is faster, it's better. However, they still store it in a single, basically, photo
like a
database file. I mean, that's just the dumbest thing in the world because then you can't. You only can mess with that is if you go in there and dig it apart, which is a pain. Most people aren't going to know how to do that.
Yeah.
Or export it, which is...
Then are you in the thumbnail photo? Are you in the mid-size photo? Right. Are you in the actual full-size photo?
Right.
Yeah, it's annoying.
But anyway, so that's getting into more backup. And that's where the Carbonite and I wish I could remember the name of all the other ones, but those are actual. But
that's what
backups.
A lot of people use these apps for.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people, when they use Dropbox or Box or Drive, very few of them use it for online shares, or I should say solely for online shares.
Right.
Most of them use it to back up, even if it's just one simple folder, to back up their home finance folder or to back up their photos or to back up whatever. I mean, it is a backup. That's the whole point. That's why they were created. So Carbonite and services like that, I think Dropbox initiated, and if you have the business version of their package, which costs a little more, then it has it as well. But Carbonite has versioning. So if you create a Word document or a Pages file and it uploads it, and then you make a change to that, you can have, I'll use Dropbox as an example. I think it's up to 4 or 7 versions of that same file. So my package, which is just the home user package, if I upload a file named Bryce.doc, then I upload a new file named Bryce.doc to the same folder, it overwrites the old one because there's no versioning.
Right.
Carbonite does versioning, and so that's a true backup software. Yeah, I totally agree with that. But just because these other apps don't do the versioning and things like that, it's still a backup process. Right. I mean, that's really what it's
what
for.
I mean is
it's an online backup.
Right, and you're right. But what I mean is you have to understand the limitations of the service that you're using. And most people honestly really don't. They view it strictly as, okay, well, I have this space. Why can't I do XXX with it? Yeah. But in reality, that's not its sole purpose. If your backup can reside within the boundaries of what they offer, well, then by all means. And for the most part, that's what I do, because I used to use Carbonite. I actually started to use, but didn't because of our bandwidth. Another one, again, can't recall it.
Pretty much every reason you don't do certain things is almost always going to fall back to your bandwidth.
Currently, yeah. It'd be amazing how
what you do or can't
open up to us if I had decent bandwidth. But I'm looking over the pricing here, and all of it's about the same. Box.net wants to go to, or Box.com, whatever, wants to go to enterprise stuff. I think that's what you were referring to, more app-related back end stuff. But they still do have their customer-facing stuff, and that's what I use. But if you want to go more picture-focused, then you have the Google Photos. You have, as we've mentioned, the Flickr. I would, as you mentioned, stay away from the Apple side of that. I mean, if it works for you, then it works for you. But most people store 1,000 pictures would be enough.
My in-laws are an example where they're not terribly worried about saving every single picture. And if they delete it from their phone, it's probably because they want it deleted everywhere.
Right.
So they're an example to where that situation with iCloud Photos is a good thing, because they're not as picky as me about things like this. They just like, okay, I want it just somewhere, get it there, and whatever. It's not. I guess they've lived long enough to not care about the minutia we do. But so iCloud Photos, iCloud Drive, it definitely has its market. You have the box and the Dropbox and things like that. OneDrive. I wouldn't really use Google Drive to that much of an extent, because I find it super annoying on an iOS device personally. So I'm not a huge fan. On a machine, on a computer, on an Android device, it's actually quite nice because it integrates really well. It doesn't really integrate too well, at least again from my experience with iOS devices, and that's kind of what I have. So if you're going to use it, I'm going to sum up my perspective of these things.
We're at 28 minutes anyway, so it's a good time to sum up.
Okay, good. iOS devices, use iCloud Drive for backup, absolutely. But if you want to save your photos and you don't care about compression or raw files, use Google Drive. It's free. It's a ridiculous amount of space. There's some minor compression you probably won't even notice. If you're anal retentive and you want absolutely everything in the world backed up, even crap you'll never use again, Box.net or Dropbox or a feature like that. Personally, unless it's free with whatever you have, don't pay for Microsoft stuff. Don't use Flickr. It's probably going to go away very soon anyways. And you're probably been compromised anyways because of your Yahoo address.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's my summation of it.
Yeah. Well, I shadow all of that basically. I do use Box. I do use the OneDrive stuff, not because I have the 365. Kids use it for school. And I use it on occasion. But so from that vantage point, I do have the OneDrive, and so the 1 terabyte's nice, but I don't rely on it. Box and iCloud storage for me, because again, iOS related right now, and so that's what works for me. But they're all viable. Focus on the free, bump up to the next level. They're all cheap. You can get some decent things at $2-3 a month, really, from a lot of these players. But that's really the role, and that's the current pricing, early 2018. If you're watching this later, check out the prices there, and there may be other competitors, some startups that are offering some pretty good deals. But again, with anything, how long will it be around? So that's the thing to think about.
Yeah, that's the problem with startups. I've used a few of these other programs. I don't even remember their name now, that had ridiculous amounts of space, that were free to begin with and started to charge you. And then I was like, wow, these guys seem like they're legit. And then, boop, they're gone.
Yeah.
Well, and I think I got a message that says we're no longer going to be in service as of this date. Download your stuff.
That's it. See ya.
I guess I need to buy a new hard drive.
We're out of time. I closed out.
Oh, yours is done?
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to warn me, man. Well, I guess I can't see you, so you might have been trying to say something, but I don't.